Black Ops 6 has officially been out for about 5 days, and today I'm going to show you the best settings to use in-game. These settings are what I found to work best for me. However, everyone is situational. If you don't like some of the settings, change them about a little bit, all to suit your needs. Before we start this video, I've got to add that I've got a pretty good computer. These settings are for all computers, high range to low range, and even consoles. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment. We are back smashing out the content through Black Ops 6, and we'll do some class setup videos throughout the week. Without further ado, let's get into it. First, we're going to start off with the controller settings. Most of these are, once again, situational to yourself. If you want to change any of these or use different settings to me, then go ahead. I'm going to start off my button layout. I use stick and move. Most people use default or tactical, but I chose to be a little bit edgy and use stick and move. What I found on this game is that 7.7 cents is the best way to go about it. 8.8 felt a little bit too fast, but 6.6 was just a little bit slow. 7 is a good mix in the middle. Most of these you want to have off. Controller vibration, you definitely want to have off. Trigger effect, this is mainly for PS5 controllers, but you definitely don't want to have full haptics off. You want to make sure it's all off. These are all my dead zone inputs. Once again, you can copy mine or you can use your own. Your left stick min and your right stick min, you do not want to go above 5. Anything above 5 and your stick becomes just a little bit too stiff, it becomes hard to shoot with and aim with properly. Your left stick max, I've had it on 70. To be honest with you, I always used to have it on 99, but this year I've gone for 70. I've copied the pro CDL player simps for this. Right stick you want on 99 and left trigger and right trigger you want on 0. Moving on to aiming, you don't really want to change any of these, you want to kind of keep it the same. Move on to aiming advanced settings now. With these, you want to make sure you change your ADS sensitivity transitioning time into instant. For some reason this year it was on gradual, we don't want that. And then your aim response curve type, I've got mine on dynamic. Moving on to movement, depending on if you're a pro player or a casual. Casuals, you want sprint assist on, but obviously pro players. Usually sprint assist is GA'd, so you can't use it. Any casuals, you want to make sure that sprint assist is on. You want to make sure that your sprint assist delay is on 2 or maybe 3, depends on what you want. People have found out that having it on 0 or 1 sometimes it bugs out and doesn't work properly. And then your 2 assists also on. Mantle assist you always want off. Crouch assist off. Corner slicing I've turned off. I feel like it's a little bit out of Call of Duty's range to put corner slicing in. Basically like a Rainbow Six lean around the corner. I don't want that on. You can have it on if you want. It just feels like it throws off my aim just a little bit. Moving down, I have my slide and dive behavior on hybrid. This is so I can dive, slide and all of that with my stick. Some people have it on tap to slide so they can't dive as well. Once again, this one's personal preference. These won't affect your movements, so don't worry about it too much. Pressing onto movement advanced settings now, some of these have changed slightly. Grounding mantle you want off. Tactical spring activation you want on single tap run. Combat, most of these have stayed the same. If you want to change them slightly for Warzone like I have, you want armor plate behavior on apply all. Equipment behavior I've got on hold. Moving on to combat advanced settings now, I have only changed a couple of these, which is interact and reload behavior. I've got it on prioritize interact. This makes sure you don't have to hold your button down to open doors and stuff. They will open them with a click of the button. And then this is a personal one for me, just a little bit different from what I usually do, is prioritizing body shield over finishing move. I found out that whilst prioritizing body shield, you can still move around and you're still in control. If you're going to use a finishing move, sometimes you're not in control and you can get killed. Moving on now to the important settings, or moving on to the graphics settings. I'm going to start off with my display settings. Make sure your display mode is always on full screen exclusive. Make sure obviously your display adapter is onto your graphics card. Make sure it's working on the highest one. AMD Radeon graphics for me, that's my motherboard. We don't want to use that, we want to use our graphics card. Frame refresh rate, make sure it's on the highest possible one available to you. This is so you can maximize your frame usage. Display resolution, this is completely dependent on your monitor as well. So for me, I have a 1440p monitor, but some people might have a 1080p monitor, just whatever you can put as your highest. My brightness I've got on 60. Video reflex low latency, you make sure it's on plus boosted. The sustainability settings, I've not really changed many of these, but just make sure these are both off. Your custom frame rate limit, most people choose to leave this on unlimited, but I prefer to cap them. My menu and out of focus custom frame rate limits, I've got both on 30. And the rest of the settings you can copy like this below. I feel like this helps maximize the frames you get whilst you're actually playing. And then going back to earlier when I mentioned the refresh rates, the frame rate is basically your refresh rate as well. So I've got mine capped at the same as what my monitor is, which is 240. None of these settings I've kind of changed, I've just kept them the same, and the rest of them I've not changed at all. Now we're into the quality settings. This is the main ones that you'll need to change to maximize your FPS and performance. I've got my upscale sharpening on Fidelity FX CAS, Ultra Performance, and I've got it on 100. These are all the other settings I've used with it. Obviously, you can have a play around with them, make sure they suit your style as well. Some people will use NVIDIA DLSS or image scaling. Either works, just see which one you prefer. Moving on now to details and textures. As you can see, most of my stuff, I've got it on very low, low, off, low, very low. You know, just keep them as low as possible. Most of these settings aren't really useful in game, so the best way to do is maximize your performance. On demand texture streaming, make sure you have a minimal. This year, for some reason, they've made it so you can't turn it off. It's not a useful setting, so just make sure you've got it on minimal as opposed to optimized, and make sure you have your texture caches as low as possible. And if you've got quite slow internet, you might want to have that on. Make sure your download limit is quite low. Your shadow and lighting quality settings, once again, very low, off, 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 low. Keep this as low as possible because these settings don't really matter in game. You can still see shadows regardless. Your environment settings, to finish off the quality settings now, I've gone once again off, low, off, off, off. Once again, none of these are really going to affect your in-game apart from your performance, so you don't need to change any of these. These are my view settings now. So motion reduction preset we've got off. Field of view, once again, this is personal preference, but for me, I found that 103 on this game is the best. I was playing 110 for a while, but now I've decided to go down because you can see everything on the map anyway. But once again, just have a play around with it, see which you prefer. ADS field of view, we want unaffected. Weapon field of view, I've made it wider. The weapon looks a bit smaller, so you can see a little bit more around your screen, which is useful. Third person and vehicle view, I've not touched. Then camera settings, these are really important. Make sure you turn your motion blurs off. I can't stress this enough, turn them off. Your first person camera movement as well, make sure this is least and not default. Default 100, make sure screen shake loads. We don't want that. We want the screen to be as stable as possible. And then third person, you don't really need to change this because you're never really in third person, but just put that on least as well. And then finishing off, inverted flashbang. If you have this on, it's basically, it makes flashbangs black instead of white. Once again, it's personal preference. Do what you prefer. After I applied all these settings, I run a benchmark tool. I've took a screenshot which will be on screen now. Basically shows that I'm on around 200 FPS in game, which is great. Obviously, like, you don't need more than 200 FPS there, but it might be worthwhile running a benchmark. And then in the comments below, tell me what FPS you're getting after these settings. Moving on to my audio settings now. Now, some people might think, Charlie, why have you got it on 100? Well, I have a Go XLR, which means I can change the volume for me anyway, so I haven't changed this. However, if 100 is too loud for you, make sure you put it down. I would say around 60 to 80. Find a middle ground there, do what works best for you. Gameplay music volume, turn that off. Dialogue volume, you don't really need that too loud, but turn it down. But just make sure you can still hear it. And then effects volume is the big one for me. It will allow you to hear the in-game effects, grenades, footsteps, all that stuff. So make sure that's as high as possible. Cinematic music volume, 0 as well. Make sure your speaker and speaker output are set to your headset. You're wondering why you've got no audio, it's probably because you've got something wrong with these settings. Audio mix, I've got a headphone bass boost. However, some people like to use the tryout mix. And once again, personal preference to yourself. Mono audio, make sure you turn off. All these settings are off. And then moving down once again, so make sure you turn all these settings off and then hit marker preset. You can have it on default or classic. I wouldn't recommend having it on none. It'll make it too clustery, and you'll never understand if you actually get a hit marker or not sometimes. But I've just got mine on default. Voice chat settings, I've not really changed. All these are personal preference to you. I don't really talk in game chat. I can't talk in game chat because I'm on dual PC, so I've not touched any of these. So if you need these settings, go somewhere else, I'm sorry. And finally, they have added the ability to change stuff around with your gameplay HUD. Most people have it on standard, but I've changed mine to magnified. It makes the minimap bigger, makes your scoreboard bigger. It increases the size of how many bullets you've got left, just to make sure you never run out. I've been swapping between magnified and standard, so whichever works better for you. HUD bounds, obviously you want this maxed out as far as you can. Minimap shape, you want this on square. I don't know why that's on round. Where there's a few like more corners at the side where you can get some more angles of where the minimap is showing where bullets are. Minimap rotation, I've gone on. It helps out. Radar off, leave that. Then the rest of them I haven't really changed. The feed crosshair, it is usually on, change it to static or center dot, whichever preference you prefer. This basically stops the swaying of your crosshair and makes it more center, so you will never miss a bullet, unless you're like me, and then you miss loads of bullets, but that's not the point. And then once you've changed your crosshair to static or dot, make sure you've mirrored these settings, make sure you've got a larger center dot. You can change the color of it if you want to. I've just kept mine as white. I feel like the default is the best it can be. It's personal preference, whatever you want to use it. And the widget visibilities, I've not changed any of these. Don't need to worry about them. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hopefully these settings have made your game run a lot smoother. Apologies for missing the video on Tuesday. I was just too locked in and playing the game. But we'll be back for consistent uploads from now on. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments what video you would like to see next. Have a good night.